So how I lead myself, how I conduct my work, my business, how I lead them is a larger reflection of our team. And I think back sometimes I think I will have a conversation with a team member now, and I think back, I was like, I could not have had this conversation a few years ago. Like, I wouldn't even tell you. I didn't even have to debrief you afterwards. There are times I think, oh, Charlene would be really proud of me because I just had that. I didn't even have to check with her how to say it. I didn't have to debrief. I just, beginning, middle, end, I handled it, and it was done.
All right. Hi, I'm Charlene. Welcome to Life and Leadership Unfiltered. We have a special guest today. She is an Emmy Award winning visual artist. She has shown many museums internationally. She is a solopreneur and an art professor. Please help me welcome Jennifer Wen Ma.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And what else are you?
I think artist is the most important title for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Many other things. I'm an aunt, I'm a mentor, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister.
You're a best friend.
I'm a best friend. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time. And please help me welcome Jen.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
How are you today?
Good. I'm in the middle of a very robust creative burst, so it's pretty intense these days.
Oh yeah? What's that like?
It's exhilarating and difficult. It's a beautiful journey, but it's also very challenging. So it's lots of ups and downs.
Yeah. What does exhilarating mean for you?
It means when you're making something and every fiber of your being, like every cell of your being, is like alive. You feel riveted. You feel excited about this thing that or a thing that I've come up with. I want to see it come to fruition. So you pour everything you know, all your being into that, channel that into this creative energy to create this, make this into a reality, like a vision.
Amazing. That's the amazing part. The other part, not so amazing. It's a journey. So
yeah, it can be quite challenging, and because it's difficult, because every time you're trying to make something new, right? You're reinventing yourself. You're doing something you've never done before. There are skills you can rely on, but really the thing you're doing is brand new, and that's uncharted territory. Because if you've been here before, then you're not doing something new. So it's quite, yeah, it's not an easy journey I've chosen to as a profession.
As an artist.
Yeah. But it's a trade-off. I don't know what else I would do if I didn't do this.
So we've worked together for quite a number of years, and the central of our work has been really self-leadership. As a solopreneur, what does leading oneself mean to you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a little bit, reflecting on this journey. I think I have a long answer, if that's okay.
Go for it. We want to hear.
I think it was a revelation when you first brought up the idea of self-leadership. It was very eye-opening, and I didn't really know what to think of it. But now that we've worked, like I said, a number of years, like nearly 10 years, I think, what's been really amazing is that I think first of all, there's just a misconception. What artist does is like angst-filled, very, individualistic. We're a mess. We're like, we're just bumbling fools. We can't keep schedules, like all we do is like day and night working. You make no sense of the world, I mean,
is half of that true?
Only a small portion of that. So there are certainly artists that little bit closer to that, but then the other side is like really obsessive, anal retentive, neat freaks, and I'm more of that. I've always had a schedule. I've been very disciplined. I just think the idea of this romanticized idea that artists just like working at a whim, inspiration strikes, it goes. It's actually not true. It's a profession. We're professionals. We are, and it comes with a whole host of tools that you have to have as a professional if you want to do well and thrive, if you want to continue to make artwork that people will see. So I think the self-leadership was really owning to that idea of who I am. Like, I'm not just, because sometimes you buy into that myth yourself, right? You're like, oh, I just inspiration, but yes. Yeah, it's so much about perspiration,
Yes.
It's really hard work. It's disciplined work. It's taking yourself seriously. So for me, the journey of self-leadership is first to say, I'm worth this. This is my profession. I respect myself. I've dedicated myself, and I expect other people also that work with, in whatever capacity, to have the same respect. In that regard, it shouldn't be any different than the way you treat your accountant or your lawyer or your doctor, right? We're just in a different field. We're in a creative field. But I shouldn't then, just because I don't want people, how they treat me, to be creative, whatever they want. I still want to be respected and to be appreciated and respected for what I do, right? So I think without having owned that first, if I bought into this, like just whatever the wind strikes, and I think that's quite dangerous. So I think I had to own up to that. And then also the work I do is quite large in scale. It requires a lot of people to help me as a team. Then I thought, well, I have to help my team. I don't want them to be disrespected either, right? So I'm responsible for others. So how I lead myself, how I conduct my work, my business, how I lead them is a larger reflection of our team. So then that made me think about that. So yeah, it's kind of a long answer.
Impact. So it sounds like impact that you create. When you described what self-leadership meant to you, you kind of had that confidence in your body. Like, I want to be seen and valued and heard just like any other professions out there. Physicians, an attorney. I think that's what I heard you say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're not being seen and heard as?
Yeah. I always say that artist is the last person to be paid, because we're just being paid by glory and honor. It's a really surprising thing, because unless you're in it, I think any artist hearing this, you will know exactly what I mean. You're often asked to do all kinds of things, show artwork, give a talk, be helping, do a workshop, and you'll be surprised. I say, you pay your custodians. It's a profession, you need to pay them. You pay your custodians more, you pay for your artists, often in a museum. So it is sometimes something you have to demand, but I just don't want to come from a place of deficit, but come from a place of pride, because what I'm offering is valuable, and it may not be functional as food prepared, but it's nourishment for the brain, it's nourishment for your spirit, that it's just as important as nourishment for the body. So I think, but to really embody that yourself, to believe that first, that's why the self-leadership is so important, because you don't want to say these empty words, because people they can sense that, whether it comes from a deep-seated belief, you really are from conviction, or kind of a hollow place from a deficit or low self-esteem.
It sounds in a way that you use leadership, self-leadership, as a community platform to advocate for other artists.
Yeah.
Which is surprising to me just now that I'm hearing this from you, because we've been working on you, right?
Yeah.
From my perspective, it's been you leading yourself. You're an artist, you're consider you solopreneur, you're a professor, you have impact on you, and obviously the community. So talk more about this community, because it sounds like you're really passionate and advocating for not just yourself, self-leadership, but for the entire arts community.
Yeah, it's really, really important to me. I'm very passionate about building community, building platform to bring others along. But just to say a word more about self-leadership, but without true self-leadership, you can't inspire. Like, you can't inspire on empty promises, right? And people really, you can't inspire just by what you say, but what you do. I think that's something I learned a lot. You can't just be like, come with me, you know, when you're not like walking the walk. So, like, say for example, demanding value. If I'm able to do that, speak up for myself and speak up for the artists I work with, sometimes I bring in a team of artists, designers, various people, and say, well, we need to be treated a certain way, and we need to be paid. And that's a hard thing to say, because we're artists. We're not supposed to talk about money, but what do we eat? You know, we don't trade artwork with food. You know, I can't go to Whole Foods and say, here's a painting, can you give me a year full of groceries? It just doesn't work that way. Maybe one time.
She has to pay for the utilities.
Yeah, exactly. The lights have to turn on. I have to pay people who work with me, right? So that's just fair. So, and that's something I feel like I definitely felt early on. It was almost shameful. Like, if you're doing what you love, how dare you ask for money to pay you for what you love doing? It seemed like such a daring thing. But until I could say why I should be paid, you know, I'm advocating for everyone. You know, I did have a hard time. I mean, so I think to demonstrate that, and with the artists I work with, collaborators, to say, well, we need to be paid. We shouldn't do any more work until this foundation, this organization, this gallery, or whatever, you know, like, of course you do a lot of work in preparation, but at a certain point, and then advocate for them, and then set an example so they do that too. And also hand over tools. Like, I learned so much from our journey. There are times I will say to other people, you know, like, I don't coach, but I've handed tools to other people as well to say, you need to think about this. So we go through, you know, I consult on that side of things as well.
Yeah.
But more not as a work, like pro bono, but like, you know, helping artists to work with them in that capacity.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's there's some cultural environment that's associated with the arts, like social work, right? Social or nonprofit. Should they really get paid a lot of money? Social work, it's not very a high-paying job. Teachers, I guess artists, right? You have to be a dying artist to be able to like make it in the world, but you're not here anymore. And so I think that continued also, like you touched on that, fighting against bias, unconscious bias towards artists. Yeah,
we're like cultural producers, right? We're in New York City. You know, one of the great things about the city is the vibrant cultural diversity, all the things. When people go see Broadway shows, they don't know that there's off-Broadway, off-Broadway, off-Broadway. This production has been in some kind of production process for probably 5 years. It started with someone in their living room, dancing together, singing together, and then they workshopped it. So if you're only looking at the museums, the Broadway shows, you may not see, 10 feet deep of people having brought it here. So we're cultural producers, and at some point it becomes a commodity, right? People can consume, but it's deep work leading up to it. And you can't just only pay the people at the very end, those, but it takes the whole thing. So yeah, but luckily we do have lots of organizations and foundations, individuals, groups of people that support. But you do have to advocate all the time, and the city does support cultural activities. I have currently a public art commission that I'm working on with the city of New York, and that's a 5-year project. And that's their way of bringing more art to the city, but also investing artists who live here. So yeah, but it's a constant, I don't want to say struggle because that's kind of a negative word, but it's a practice. It's a constant practice.
So thank you for that. So if you could specifically share in your self-leadership journey as an artist, like what was the most difficult thing before, I don't know how much struggles you experience now with self-leadership because we've been working on. Can you remember a time that, my gosh, I didn't need to struggle that much if I knew about self-leadership?
I'm sure there's like a million stories. You probably can tell more stories than I can, but you're not allowed to. Luckily, you're not allowed to tell stories. I remember one of the major projects I was working on when we were first working together was I was directing an opera. And that was my first time directing an opera in this, pretty large production. It's a small opera, but still a large production in that we had singers and, dancers, choreographers, and lots of design people, composer. So it was very complicated. I just remember all the time back then, I often had to ask to rehearse a conversation I would have with a collaborator before I could have that conversation. I just and then multiple times I didn't fully understand. It was not a formalized understanding of self-leadership back then yet. I was just using these tools that are brand new to me, right? So I couldn't put in the terms of self-leadership, but it was definitely advocating my point of view. It could be like a concept I was like, I really believed in, but how do I convey that when it's confrontational in this way? There are all kinds of personalities I had to work with. So I think that was very, early on, it was quite difficult because I'm not a very confrontational person. I don't want to be. I want people to get along. I want, to everyone get along, that kind of thing. So it was very difficult and I think back sometimes I think I will have a conversation with a team member now, and I think back, I was like, I could not have had this conversation a few years ago. I wouldn't even tell you. I didn't even have to debrief you afterwards. There are times I think, oh, Charlene would be really proud of me because I just had that. I didn't even have to check with her how to say it. I didn't have to debrief. I just, beginning, middle, end, I handled it, and it was done.
All right.
But it wasn't the case. But I think I had to internalize that is part of leadership, right? To lead myself, lead the team, to command, to demonstrate that I deserve their respect.
Yeah.
I was the person that deserved to be in that director's chair to lead this team forward.
So I imagine being an artist, like you're an artist, specifically, obviously you're a visual artist, so you use different mediums. But most of your mediums are not really people. And so I think, most of your medium is not dealing with people. You deal with tools, whatever they are, things, right? And so your relationship with things is very not so abstract, right? It's very concrete. Certain tools you can manipulate. It doesn't really, or it might fight you back, but there's only one battle to win. Whereas doing this type of work, now you had to deal with many people, many personalities. So do you think that's what contributed to the complexity of?
Yeah, I think what's interesting what you said is that one thing that's true kind of about this myth of being an artist is that you are with your materials all the time. Like I'm in my head a lot. And there are all the things I'm thinking about how to make an idea into reality. So 90% of my energy is on that. I'm alone a lot, I'm thinking a lot, I'm trying to figure things out, push and pull to make sure something comes out. But it's a fairly one-sided. I mean, I do think I'm in concert with something greater when I'm dealing with ideas, but but we're working with people, the push and pull is completely different, right? It's something I learned, really, you can't make people do what you want to do. You can't change them. You can inspire, you can ask, you can invite, right?
This is what we've learned.
Right, we've learned
together
this. Yeah.
in this journey.
You can't make anyone do anything they don't want to do, because we don't want people to make us do anything we don't want to do. It goes both ways. So that's very challenging. That's been a very different journey than all the things I honed as an artist, what I had to do, you know? And that's the stuff, like you go through school, you go through your artwork, you do that. But this dealing with people, because I do want to make big things. I love community. I love building community. I don't have to even work with them, but just I love artists. I want to see other artists succeed. I want our community to thrive, right? I do love that. I'm just not good at necessarily, or wasn't always good at.
Yeah. So there's some condition with self-leadership, right? Some of the condition is that setting yourself up for success. For example, making sure that, if you have some work to do, you set yourself up. And I remember you setting up a beautiful area that you had your flowers, you had your pen, you had your music, you were just setting yourself up so that you could be in flow. So that's part really of self-leadership, right? Being responsible for yourself, and also having an optimistic mindset, right? Making sure that you are aware of the conversations that you have and how it motivates you, or perhaps it doesn't motivate you. So self-awareness in that area. So setting yourself for success.
Well, the conditions you said.
The conditions, that's right. I said the conditions, and self-efficacy, that you can do it. There's a lot more to this self-leadership, actually. But these are...
Can I add another thing?
Yeah, please.
Reward. And that's something that was very hard for me to take at first, because again, I'm doing what I love. That is reward in itself. Right? I don't need anything else. But no, that's not true, because it's hard work. You might love
sweating.
It. Yeah. I think that picture you're talking about, I did have something, I think, in the background. I had a kitty in the background. I was like, if I finish this hard work, I get to kiss the kitty, and whatever it is, right? That to create, because I think that picture was when I was doing something very difficult. So I created a world where I had visual feedback that's positive, so that's condition. And then once I'm done with it, I get to have something good that nourishes me. Yeah. Even though the finishing is already great, but I want something else. And I think you taught me that, like end of the year, every year, reflecting, rewarding oneself. And that reward is necessarily monetary, or it could be anything. It could be...
That's right. A hug.
Yeah.
Right? That you give yourself. Because most times people really look for that big win, big, huge change, but really it's those micro wins that matter, because they add up a lot. The big wins come and go once in a great while. Being present and celebrating your success for that day, for that hour, because we all know that we go above and beyond when we're passionate and working, really committed. So that is a cause for celebration.
Yeah.
It sounds like it also impacted you personally, like your personal relationships.
Because I could advocate myself in so many different ways. It doesn't just stop because I'm not making art, but I'm advocating for myself in every aspect of my life. And also, I think what's really important, I saw that even more in personal relationships, because it's murkier, right? Is that I'm responsible for my own happiness. I'm responsible. I take ownership and responsibility of creating my reality. I think that's the easier thing to understand as work, like, what kind of job you apply. But then sometimes you feel like in your personal life, you don't know how you got here. You're at the mercy of people in relationship with you. But no, it's my responsibility, and as a glad thing. Like a happy thing, not as a negative thing. Like I'm responsible for me in all these different ways. So I think so I can advocate for myself, what I want, what I desire, but I can also take more responsibility. And that's very empowering, right?
Taking ownership, standing confidently in your space. If you were to give advice, who would you want to give advice to? Young artists, beginning artists, middle artists? Like if you were to choose that you want to give advice to? Because you've been at this for a long time. Yeah. Who are the people that you like to give advice to?
I don't think it's age or even stage of development. It's whoever, I guess people I'm most drawn to are people who have a vision, who have this ambition in their heart and they have something to say, but maybe they haven't found the best way to say it, for them. People looking for their voice. Even though every journey is individual, is unique, there are things we can learn from each other, and that if you can honor that inner voice and really believe in it, you can learn from other professionals. Your artistic vision and journey is individualistic, but the tools of the trade to be as self-assured as you can while remaining open to the world, right? Doesn't mean you're rigid. You're self-assured, so you have the confidence to take in, to accept what the world has to offer. And those professional tools are there to help us to be the best. And also, I want to say, I do not subscribe to the whole idea that artists have to be tortured. It's a lot of BS that society gives us.
Ooh, did you hear that?
Complete
She's
BS.
dropping a bomb.
I also bought into that.
Oh, you did?
I did. I thought, what am I going to do if I didn't have misery and sadness? How am I going to make art? I'm like, you'll make better art. Can you imagine if all you had was sad? If that's something you want to deal with, and there are times I do, that's fine. Yeah. But it cannot be the only thing, right? The world is a rainbow, a myriad of amazing things.
Emotions.
Emotions. I want to go beyond the two. I want to use all of them. And once you're not constantly fighting your emotional, psychological problems, art is enough of an issue to make good art, to be innovative and take on the material challenges. That's enough. You have enough in the art making process. You don't need personal torture and pain added.
I always say, that guilt, put it down aside. You can pick it up whenever you want. It's there for you to pick up whenever you want. The baggage, the guilt, take a break from it for a little bit. Lighten up the load up here. I could use that myself.
Yeah. We all can.
Yeah. So what would you want our listeners or viewers to take away from our conversation today?
Believe in yourself. This whole thing, self-leadership. I mean, if you're fortunate enough to have a wonderful coach to work with you, that's the best. Definitely do that. I recommend coaching to everybody. I think everyone should have a therapist and a coach, and one in the gym probably. But that's a different podcast. And I'm not just saying this to plug you, but really get a coach, because it's just constantly you can be better. There's always someone there to hold you accountable, to challenge you, and also to cheerlead. And I think that's what I've really gotten from that. But if that's not possible right now, to really think about whatever you want to do, whether it's professional or personal, you really want to achieve. Think of yourself as a leader. You respect yourself to say, I'm leading my life. I'm not leaving this to anyone else's hands. Not the universe even. We'll leave it to the universe. No, the universe needs to know that you're working hard. Right? You can't be like, Netflixing and waiting for the universe just to drop it into your lap.
You would be so nice though, wouldn't it? Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
There's not enough nice cakes to drop because everyone's... So, you gotta be that. Take that on to say, I am leading myself towards that vision that I want, whatever that might be. And it takes that first recognition first, and then you can seek out all the tools that are available.
So not just for artists, for any profession, and even just personally, if you're looking into entering into a career or not, or you're out vacationing, gallivanting around, there's going to be areas and challenges in your life that you will face. We all face it, right? I don't think I've met anyone, but I am in the field of people that know they've met with challenges. And so, but I'm going to guess that, most of us, or if not all, we are met with challenges. So it's good to be able to be aware and have the platform to better ourselves, to talk about it, to have accountability, to have partnership, collaboration. We're designed to help each other. And so thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, everybody. Until next time, we're signing out.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Feel good about it?
Yeah.
Boy, I hope the sound was on. I hope I turned it on. What if I didn't turn it on?
Are you kidding me right now? It's not even on.
No, really?
It's not.
Are you serious?